That hair is a travesty.
It's a choice.
It's like you were putting like the shit in your hair to make it stick, and then the wind blew really hard. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Stoneface Reactions. I'm Theta, this is Lessons, and we are back with another episode of Mobile Suit Gundam seed Destiny. Before anything else though, we have a couple of comments. Some of them I actually forgot to read out last time I recorded. So, first up, we got Heather from the Patreon from Gundam seed Astray. Astray is different. What you saw were cutscenes from a game, arcade if I remember correctly. Astray was originally going to release at the same time as Seed, and both stories would have referenced each other. However, problems with scheduling would have delayed Seed, and the idea was dropped at around episode 25-ish. Astray was going to show some background stuff, such as how Kira survived, the mass-produced orb suits, being made despite Heliopolis being destroyed, etc.
It makes sense you have some other types of heroes in a video game so that, unless you're making it specifically, this is a remake of Seed in video game form, you got more freedom to operate if you go like, oh, these are just other characters. We can just do whatever we want with them, no problem. I mean, within reason.
I mean, since it didn't get its own thing. Not really a future concern, I guess. Unless you're reading the manga. Or playing the game. Next up, we have Mr. Fricky, also from the same episode. Oh yeah, for Universal Century Gundams, just need to be named Gundam to be Gundams. Also, not all Fed suits are Gundams. Mostly just high-spec suits, and also somewhat looks like the RX-78-2.
I mean, that's sort of the base Gundam, so they're using that as a sort of it's a GM in 79. And you see continuity.
Alright, next up, back to Heather from Seed Destiny, the episode Angry Eyes. Destiny is divisive for fans since it has its high and low points, with some behind-the-scenes issues that crop up later, which you can tell when they happen. Destiny is almost literally hit or miss. Side note, the suit designs used here are almost all UC-inspired as part of the same 25th anniversary celebration I mentioned earlier.
Yeah. You can see it, well, like, almost note for note with Impulse, which is the main new Gundam. Like the core fighter, the assembly and all of that is just taken directly from 79. So I have a note about that.
Well, we'll get there.
Yeah.
Also, Heather from Patreon, episode Seed Destiny, Those Who Call for War. The Archangel was part of the same project that the original Gundams were and was designed as their ship, so it had all of their data when it arrived in Alaska in Seed. It's kind of funny that info actually made it to all factions since Zaft stole them. The Alliance received it at Alaska, and Orb made them.
Yeah. So now everybody essentially has Gundams, except for Zaft, which has Gundams and other suits.
I have a note about that. And lastly, we have one from David Butt, also from the same episode. Stella has the same voice actor as Flay and Badgirl from the first series. And not sure if you noticed, but Chairman Durandal has the same voice actor as Char. I have complicated thoughts about Destiny as a whole, but it does have a lot of strengths as a series.
Yeah. I didn't write a note about this, but the fact that Durandal is a mythical French sword, well, I think that makes him far more important than just guy who is leader of faction, just happens to be there.
Rug. I've heard the name in anime plenty of times before. All right, we're gonna do our thoughts and everything, but first we got the board here, where I thought I would separate the seasons from one another, because that's the best way I could figure out how to do it. And I've only put people up here that were shown so far.
Yeah.
That's why Azrael is up here for no reason.
Oh yeah. I mean, we saw him in a flashback.
Yeah, I guess I said people that are been in the show so far, and of course, dead parents and sister. Maybe.
Oh, so he. Okay. Never mind.
I didn't see who you were looking at.
I was looking at Neo Roanoke.
Yep.
Because I was wondering who the hell he was, because people talked about Neo, but in the episode, that's one of my notes, they don't mention his name. It's like, oh, he's just giving out orders. And they mention the name of the captain. It's like, yeah, I'm going to go out. And it's like,
no, they mentioned his name.
I missed it. They mentioned name Neo, like the three, the saboteurs / terrorists. Like, oh, Neo is going to say this. But in the ship itself, when he's sitting, nobody says, oh, Neo, this. Or,
I'm pretty sure there is, like, the very end of the second episode. I'm pretty sure he calls back to the ship and tells them where to go, and they identify who's sending that order to this guy. Yeah, I mean, any other... I guess I should have actually connected Tudaka over here to Shin. It's a element of hindsight that I didn't do. Did I put him in the right category? I guess that's an orb hat. I can't tell.
That is an orb hat, yeah. Is it? Let me check. It's yeah, it is an orb hat.
But yeah. I don't remember if I have notes about why I put people over here in unknown, but I'll wait till we're done with the notes, and if I didn't, then I'll bother with it later. Anyway, you want to go first? Because it appears that this time you've come with notes.
Yes, I came with notes, and I have them by episode. So let me start with Gundam Destiny, Episode 1, Angry Eyes. And we talked about this in the episode, but when I saw it again, it was still particular to me. Shin's father says to Shin that the Fed targets will be the military facilities, that the Fed will target, I should say, military facilities. And then in the next shot, we see that those facilities are within visual distance of Shin and his family. The possibility of a stray shot hitting near them was all too likely at those distances. Like literally a missile going this way, which is going to, kill them all. So it's not like they were very far away. If you can see those targets in modern military parlance, they're right next door, right? So that's something I noticed.
It's funny because we literally covered just before we were starting this little section of this recording what we do if we had two thoughts that were the same. And unfortunately, this is one of those where I don't think I can just read you out, because my thought that's similar to this one literally has a part that notes the fact that a previous thing that I've written out has something to do with it. So two interconnected thoughts, I can't just... Yes, I understand what you're saying. I will say, to just address only specifically what you said, we know that Morgan Road is literally just down the beach from where they are, because that is where Durka runs back to... Well, you didn't see this, and I think I commented during the movie that it's weird that the movie didn't include it. Durka's... Ooh, it's not the Blitz, because that's the camouflage one. Buster? Was his the Buster? Also, by the way, I just bring this up now because I forgot to. If you zoom in on the characters that pilot Gundams on the board, in the bottom left-hand corners of their images, I put which Gundam on the top, only on this side.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Gundam pilots thing.
I mean, if you zoom in on the pictures, I put a tiny little which Gundam they had by visual.
I mean,
Atherin is in a Gundam. Yeah, I was just saying, Atherin is just... Well, technically, he's in something called a Zaku Warrior, which is weird. But I also have a note about that. Anyway, I just wanted to let you... If you ever got confused, you can always go back to the board and say, oh, this little thing right here. Anyway, yeah. in the show, it's when Durka surrendered to the Archangel, and I think it was the Buster, gets sent to Morgenrot at Orb. So during the fight at Orb, that's when Fra lets Durka go, and Durka runs into the weirdly the ruins of the building, even though Earth Alliance forces specifically got told not to target Morgenrot because they wanted to capture it whole hog.
Yeah.
But he just runs in there and gets Buster back, and we see it's like right there on the beach, and the fight is all happening in one area. So technically, they are right down the beach from one, a military target, but two, also a target they were told not to attack. All right, well, that was your first note. I actually have to wonder who Shin would blame for his family's death, if he does blame anyone. The obvious mark would be Azrael / Blue Cosmos / Earth Alliance for being actually directly responsible for the attack. Of course, blame doesn't always have to act logically. He could always point the finger at Kigali's dad, and depending on how he's feeling about transference, Kigali herself. In respect to a why didn't you just accept their terms style argument about their decision to stand up to the Earth Alliance rather than capitulating, one of those my family would still be alive situations. Obviously, the group he doesn't seem to blame is Zaft, considering he ran off and joined them.
I think it's too early to tell. Like you said, we haven't had a situation where he confronts Kigali or Athron or anybody who could possibly be in that battle and be responsible for it. And also his first reaction, which I also talk about later, is, why do you want to start this war again, right? It's not, I'm seeking vengeance. I am vengeance. I'm the knight. He's not doing that. He's sort of like, stop it. You're going to get more people killed, right? What are you doing?
It would be
right?
a lot more of a rational point of view than I would expect from an anime character.
It could happen
and
later.
It was shocking to have him go from the beginning of the episode of, whoa, on the beach to, are you trying to start the war again? It was surprising to have him not be one of the villains. So
yeah.
It's already a more rational point of view. All right, that was my number one. What's your number two? Even though these aren't ranked. I mean, what's your next one?
Yeah. Can't get over that Mayu, Shin's sister, is essentially a younger gender-bent version of Kira. Like, they literally have the same face, but they have different hair.
Another thing that you brought up in that episode.
Yeah. It's like, they're literally the same face,
I've already pointed out that I have like face blindness when it comes to certain animes or art styles of animes. So you pointed it out twice now. It just isn't really a thing that matters to me much, except for, I guess, the element that I did rewatch the second episode just this morning, and I thought maybe they brought Maya back to life. It's like, no, probably not. And the fact that you didn't spot, like, maybe Stella isn't Maya, and that's why she's having this whole "am I dead" thing going on.
Yeah.
But you keep pointing out that what Shin's sister looks like, and you haven't done that for Stella, so clearly not. Alright. Here's my follow-up to my first one. Ironically, I wrote that thought out having paused during the first minute of the first episode and having forgot who exactly was to blame. When the explosion happens that kills everyone in Shin's family, the Calamity and the Freedom are both firing at one another right overhead of them. But it's shown as the Freedom shot that causes the explosion that makes everything go white and blows everyone away, meaning the most likely culprit would be Kira Yamato himself. Meaning what may be the main character of this season may have a giant chip on his shoulder about the main character of last season.
Yeah. I can see that. But then, I mean, how would that, okay, giant chip, I get what you're trying to say there. The question then becomes, how would that be?
I'm not exactly sure what your question is.
No, how would it was shown? No, would he just go out in the berserker rage and kill Akira? Will he just dismiss Akira? Will he try to get explanation out of Kira?
Like, not he would kill Neo Tokyo.
Yeah, you killed my family. How do you live with yourself? Something like that, right? Or it's like, does he even know who was piloting which, Gundam at the time?
I would assume that would have to be knowledge. I don't know. Maybe. Kira's too big of a figure in the war at this point to be suppressed. I have to imagine it's like the Atherin situation where Atherin goes by a different name at this point in time because everyone knows who the fuck Atherin is. And he's basically the alternate Atherin in the war situation, and he's got the most powerful Gundam doing the most stuff. If not, even if people saw him as a villain, he also helped shoot down all the nukes heading towards the plants, so some people consider him a hero. He would be a real murky figure, So, I don't know. He's also, the fiancé, possibly, or boyfriend of a very famous idol.
Yeah.
And it very much seems like she's gone back to idling when it comes to the mid-show thing and the opening of the show.
Yeah.
So I have no idea. I'm assuming people would know who Kira is and what he's done.
Yeah. Okay. So my next one, I think, right? And this one is a long one. And we did talk about this, but I went back and I was like, I don't think stopping to get Mayu's flip phone is what doomed the family due to the size and impact of the explosion. Instead, it was what saved Shin's life. More likely, all the family would have either died or been severely injured by the explosion traveling down the mountain. What saved Shin was that he was largely underneath the plane of the blast expansion wave, while the family was right in the path of the shockwave traveled. The explosion carried all the way down to the loading dock. Some may have survived, but there would have been no guarantees.
Disagree. Sorry, I was closing my eyes to reimagine the situation as you were describing it, so it's not just me waiting for you to finish so I can say disagree. I remember this was my argument at the time, too, so I'm also remembering where I was coming from. They stopped at the moment that they were at, right? We consider that point 1. They stopped because the
flip phone.
The sister stops them to say, I need to go back for my phone. They say, come on, we need to go. She says, no, I need my phone. Shin goes off to get it. Your argument is that he went downhill, which put him off the plane of the attack, of whatever the blast was, and it's why he survived. And your double argument is also that the explosion reached down to the dock, which means it was big enough to have hit that area. My counter to that is that they were running downhill on a road path that circled around towards the dock, so they were already heading away from the explosion and in a direction that would have carried them downhill from the plane of the blast itself. Conversely, also, she stopped for 20 seconds, 30 seconds, and held everyone back from moving, whereas Shin only got maybe 5 seconds away by the time of the blast. So that would have been an extra 20 seconds heading downhill from the blast site if she hadn't, stopped them.
I mean, I do say that they may have survived, but they would have probably been severely injured. So that is a possibility. I think those 20 seconds would not have been enough to get them completely clear of the blast zone.
There was 5 seconds to get Shin away, and she held them back for longer. So it would have been the amount of time that Shin had to get away, plus all the time that she held them back. So if Shin survived, they would have had so much more time to have possibly survived. Again, that's the main crux of my argument is the fact that the road headed downhill and away, when your argument is that Shin was downhill already. And again...
Yeah, but he was down and to the side, so the explosion happens on top of the hill. It runs down the hill.
Well, here's the problem. I want to interject is that we don't know what direction the explosion's coming from, because it's obviously a directional blast, because we know it's from the giant side-mounted things that attach to the Freedom, because this is also post Josh A, which means this is the Freedom with its giant additive Mega Blast thing. So it's directional. So we don't... Not knowing the cone of attack is also very detrimental to this hypothetical argument.
Yeah, but I think what happened wasn't that the beam came down. It hit the ground. The explosion happened. We don't see.
No, I mean, that would still represent a directional blast, though, because if it hits the ground, it's still... The energy is still moving in the direction that it was originally going in. You know, it's just inertia.
And it also would go down the path of least resistance, which would be the open road.
No, that's what I'm saying. Directionally, if it was coming from, say, if the open road is this way, right? God, I keep making these moves, and I gotta stop it. If it's going like this, right, and the blast comes from this direction, it's heading back down the straight path that it came from, and going downhill would still be safer for them. Versus, you know, if it was going back this way, it would just go straight down the hill, and everyone would be fucking dead. But then again, it must not have been coming from, you know, a cone like this, because otherwise it would have hit Shin going downhill the same way. So it must have been going the opposite direction of them. And I think the shot the show gives us kind of collaborates that, in that he looks up and he sees, like, mostly the front of the Freedom, which means it must be facing towards him and then firing away. If you can see the front of the person attacking you, that means the weapon they're shooting at you has to be going past you and away from you. If it doesn't hit you.
But that was before. No, actually, the way he looks back and he sees the kind of the front, but he seems to be pointing somewhere else.
Well, that's because he's fighting. He wasn't standing. The one that he's fighting is out towards the water.
Yeah.
So he's towards away from the docks, and that the docks we know is kind of a little jut thing. So he's off in that direction, which again I think is more from the path that they came from, and not towards where they're going. So it's
but
still,
if he hits the top of the hill, it would just come down.
Again, Shin was just down the hill, so clearly the explosion didn't travel down the hill.
Yeah, okay, but he went sideways, and going down that slide puts essentially the main force of the blast above him. So it's like diving into a trench, you know.
And once again, the road was also slanting downhill. Sorry, I know I've gotten one additional more shot of this than you did, in that they added it to the HD remaster of the show that we watched. So I don't remember if it showed up in the first episode, but in the HD remaster of the shot, we don't get like up on their faces like we do in this first episode. We get like a pan back shot of just the whole family running together, and it shows like down a hill and the curving road that goes towards the docks.
Anyway,
I think what we need was like a commenter that's like versed in physics. You know?
Yeah.
Well, it appears that they're firing plasma at each other, and we know that plasma travels this way in a heated air medium. I mean, what the fuck are we doing?
Oh, yeah. Next.
I totally forgot how gruesome the start of episode 1 was before I rewatched it. When they show Mayu's severed arm, I was still repressing how bad it was. My first thought was that maybe she could still show up again later, missing an arm and be an important character. But fucking no chance. They really wanted to drive it home from moment one what was happening here. Just a side thought, though. This really does remind me of a very emotional revelation that happens in Gundam 00, and makes me wonder if the way Gundam 79 was inspiration for bits of Seed, if Seed Destiny was an inspiration for bits of Gundam 00. I don't remember if you've said you've seen 00 or not.
I've seen bits of it. I don't remember overall what happens in 00, so I can't say that.
There is a wedding that happens, and a character survives the attack. Sans arm.
Yeah.
Specifically, an arm that you would typically wear a wedding ring on.
Yeah, no. Doesn't ring a bell, so I haven't seen it 00. I've heard about it, but yeah, of course, but no. Well, my next note was about that, but shorter. So I'm going to say, just to reiterate the points. So I do my 2 notes because the other one is also different. While the depiction of Shin's family death seems gratuitous, it is a depiction. In its depiction, depiction of the depiction. It seems to serve the story well later on, and I'll talk about that later on. My next note after that is when Kigali and Arthur are floating past the passenger lounge, we hear people talk about the new warship and that it will show the damn naturals, meaning that while the war is officially over, resentment still remains.
Oh, of course. All they do is sign a treaty that doesn't get rid of years of racism. Also referring to the Minerva. Yeah, no, I mean, I thought about it. There was a lot of stuff in the show that I thought, that's interesting, but I didn't find it to be noteworthy. So I think that's mostly comes around in the second episode. That stuff I thought was interesting, I just didn't have any notes for. Alright, well, I think here's my longest one. Analyzing the first opening, we get Kira and Athrun standing somewhat staggered backs to each other among the ruins, but pointedly a disheveled person I can only guess to be Shin, based on my previous points, is standing in the back, staring directly at them. Next up is Neo standing astride the background of the genetics tanks we saw being used to make coordinators, with the new zaft leader looming giant in the background with a smirk on his face. Not sure who the blonde girl is opposite of Neo, and looking at him though, as the only blonde girl fitting that hairstyle and face would be Stella. But this person is in a zaft outfit, and Stella is a terrorist. Looks like Haw has become a war reporter. Lacus seems to have gone back to being an idol. We get a shot of what I assume will be our new main ship, and I guess this is before I realized what the Minerva was. A zaft ship bridge with Talia as the captain, Kigali, Athrun, Gilbert, and who I think is Marin Hawk in the background. We got Sting in the Chaos Gundam, Stella in the Gaia Gundam, Aul in the Abyss Gundam, Luna Maria in the Zaku Warrior, Rei in the Blaze Zaku Phantom, Yazik in the Slash Zaku Phantom, Durka in the Gunner Zaku Warrior, Athrun in the Savior Gundam? Sorry, he's standing sort of in front of the text, so I can't really tell. I think it was probably Savior. Oddly, the opening pairs Kira and Kigali together in one of those odd floaty nude scenes, but then also Kira and Lacus in just a nude standing together and looking at each other scene.
I don't think those two are, the first two are, I think they are, what's his name? Chin and Stella.
Well, we'll find out in a minute. Well, we'll find out in probably 30 minutes, but we'll get there. Athrun and Lacus standing together, and Marius in that staggered back-to-back with Waltfeld, and the Archangel in the background. Then a shot of what appears to be a bored Kira fighting an intense Shin. I wrote down fighting, but I'm pretty sure it's just staring at each other. Maybe they're fighting, I don't remember. I wrote these like 2 days ago. That's my breakdown of the opening.
Yeah. Well, my note 6 feeds in what I was, the stuff that was saying out 5, which leads me to believe, based on the statements in my note 5 about, showing the damn naturals, that we're dealing with neither a federation or faction, but a third faction who wants to restart the war, like in Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country.
Unfortunately, you've gone into Justin territory. Justin's whole thing during Season 1 was a third faction, and you've stepped out of bounds in that we are already well past 3 factions. Hell, you can look at the board. There's already more than 3 categories. You have,
we already have Blue
Cosmos, you have Earth Alliance, which is technically made up of smaller factions in itself. I have a further note about that, by the way. You have Zaft. You have whatever the Archangel crew individually is, since they're now a military power in their own right. That's already 4. Did I already say Zaft?
And whatever Neo's ship is, because we said it was Federation.
I'm not including that at the moment, but I have a further thought about Neo and his allegiance.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're already at 4. I didn't say orb. It's 5. So, yeah, like I said, we're past third faction status.
Yeah. But it could be a new player of the game,
Yeah.
or a remixing of older alliances into a new player. That too could happen.
All right, my next one. Season 1 started in Cosmic Era 70, 11 months into the war with Zaft. Episode 1 tells us it is Cosmic Era 72, so it's at least 2 years since the start of Season 1. It also says that the 18-month war between Earth and plants came to an end at the Battle of Jashin-Du, which was the fight at the end of the first season. So we know that the first season was 7 months long, and that it's been a little over a year since then.
Yeah, I mean, it matches 79, where it starts about 7 months into the 1 year war, I think, or in October, something like that.
Well, you're getting before, just in case you spoil me for something. I also want to quick correct in that not correct, note, that starts several months into the 1 year war, in that we saw the start of the 1 year war in Origin, and then they say it's been several months. This started at 11 months and finished 7 months later.
And so, year and a half.
Yeah, that was the joke at the start of Seed, is that we're not the 1 year war, we're in an 11-month war. And then we just so happened to carry it on through for 7 more months. We took your 1 year war and we increased it by 6 months.
Yeah. Okay, my next note then. While I understand making the Impulse Gundam modular so that it adapts to any situation, it also seems ridiculously complicated, even if it follows in a tradition of the RX 078-2, the original Gundam.
I at least appreciate that I'm going to say something, I don't know if it's right or not. I at least appreciate that it mostly seems automated.
True. But it also, okay.
The one element that's not automated is the thing that launched out the last episode, and that it looked like it had a fighter jet on the front of it, and then the fighter jet part flies off on its own. But then, even then, that bit is modeled after something from Season 1, which the Freedom and the Justice had flown out at them, so...
Yeah. I mean, it's one thing to throw in... Because here's the thing. In the original Gundam, the idea was that the core fighter, as its name is, was supposed to be it was supposed to be an escape vehicle for the Gundams, whether the gun tank, the gun cannon, or the Gundam itself. That's why it was supposed to be modular. And also the idea was that you could swap parts. Like you could have the legs of the Gundam and the core fighter, but the top of the gun cannon. Doesn't really work that way because, weight and all that, but still, that's the idea. And then later on, we have the other things that they're thrown in, which become kind of more ridiculous as that goes on. But the idea is, there's base Gundam, and we're gonna, just like in classic super robot shows, we're gonna throw them something that makes them stronger, right? Like, again, a new toy to add to the existing toy line. Here, the fact that the Gundam is not launched as one piece, and it's just launched into all these pieces, and he has to assemble them in order to fight, right? Even if it takes only seconds. Seems it's a cool sequence. Certainly sell toys, but it doesn't seem to match the moment. Like, oh no, they're gonna escape. We have this big battle. Okay, give me a moment. Okay, we're done. Right?
I don't know. I think it's less dumb than the RX 72. So,
78, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's faster for one thing, and two, it's automatic. I don't know. Like I said, my only point of defense for it is that I don't know what the purpose of it is. Like, maybe it's easier to store, but also the fact that we do know that it has different, fighting modules. So, maybe it is completely modular in that you can mix and match. Like, it's its own gunpla in the show.
Yeah.
All right, well, my next one is, I think my shortest one of all. So the location of the last 2 episodes has been a plant called Armory 1, where a character tells us that everyone there is a rookie.
I mean, considering the massive losses that they incurred during the regional war, and they're rebuilding their military, kind of makes sense up to a point. Although it seems that the captain of the Minerva, she's not a rookie, right? And some other people are not, but
Right, but they could have moved the Minerva there.
yeah. So my last point for this episode is just a general sentiment. Heat axe will always be cooler than beam saber. And yes, I know that I'm a fetty at heart, goes all the way to 79, but I have to admit that the heat axe has always been cooler than the beam saber.
Has to be. Beam saber has to be what, 90% plasma beam, whereas the heat axe is only that cutting edge.
Yeah.
So the 90% of the heat axe is actually cold metal. It is literally cooler than the beam saber. All right, my next one. And again, I don't never order these by episode. I just put them down as I think of them. Apparently, Kigali's visit to Armory 1 is unofficial, despite being Orb's leader and them being the ones that reached out to Zaft to have this meeting. Of course, we know that the matter she wanted to discuss was the technology and people that left Orb as a result of the war, and Zaft's application of them to military projects. Though it seems odd for her to confront Zaft about this, since it was the Alliance that attacked Orb, Zaft in the background of those episodes was signaling an offer to help, which Orb declined to respond to. Durandal even mentions her father's unwillingness to bow to pressure against his vision of utopia as a point in questioning what she thinks they should do in regards to the current state of the world.
But there also is, he mentions that it's kind of an accusation that she is trying to put pressure on Plant because the North American Alliance, he doesn't simply say the Alliance, it specifically says the North American Alliance is putting pressure on her. And we see a brief shot of the North Alliance.
You already referencing my next two notes. So, I mean, I've got nothing to do but sit on my hands and let you tell me my own thoughts at me.
And so, they're in the conference room, and then a brief shot of that where Kigali is there. And I finally, because I actually took time to write her name. I'm having better luck saying it. And she goes, she clenches her fist like, oh, like, damn it. So clearly it's not simply she's there to scold Zaft, but that she's feeling pressure because he also mentions that Orb is rebuilding, and she says, well, yes, we are, but we have a lot to do. So in other words, she doesn't want another conflict because, again, Orb will be caught in the middle and probably destroyed this time around, and nothing she can do about that. So now we go to my notes on Gundam Destiny Episode 2, Those Who Call for War. The enemy Gundams that ambushed the SAF ship, I put Platt, but Platt is the space station. The SAF ships have once they're at the other, while the second one nods in agreement. That's at 5:58 in the video. It's very weird because I noticed because they were like, he turns back and goes like this, and the other gun goes like, yeah. I'm like, why would you do that in a Gundam? I mean, like manipulate the controls so your head goes up and down. Like, oh yeah, I got this. And like, what? Okay. And then they go in and they do the Luna, the ambush that's basically what's his name? Car did in Luna 2, where he destroys the ship in the in the bay and
very
all that.
Specifically, one of the things that I was bringing up before, things I thought were interesting but not worthy of note. And it's like, oh, I remember this. They're blocking up the entrance the same way that Char did with the explosives in Luna 2 to make it that was it the Magellan? The Magellan couldn't launch. It's like, yeah, but all I would be writing down was literally that.
Oh, I did.
Yeah. That's the benefit of having two people with notes. Okay. I didn't know you were done or not. I thought I was just talking in the middle of your thing.
No, I was done. That was your reaction. Go ahead.
All right. Durandal feels like he's playing the speak softly and carry a big stick of Roosevelt. He points out that he has the same national ideals as Orb, but that one needs power to maintain the peace. He even points out that Orb maintains its military facilities as well.
That's true. But then Kigali responds, how much is... Essentially, she asks, how much is too much, right?
I mean, that's Durandal's answer, too, though. It's, why don't you tell me? You're building your military bases, too.
I'll skip my number 2 note because you already kind of answered who he was. I didn't know who he was until I saw the board. It was like, oh, that's who he is. So I'll go to 3. Stella freezes when she's asked if she wants to die here. Considering how callous she and her fellow terrorists are in their battle inside the plant, I wrote plant, about casualties and the damage they cause, including blasting a hole in the side of the station to escape, I think she might be like Chin, a survivor of Orb's destruction seeking revenge. That's my pet theory so far.
I don't know. You've heard how many times I've tried to guess that she's somebody dead brought back to life, so I have no idea. I guess my only other theory, which has been bouncing around the back of my head, is that they're more of the 3 guys that we saw in season 1. The Earth Alliance coordinators, you know?
The drug addicts, yeah.
Yeah, they're more of them. And that we didn't really get much about those guys other than, I don't know, I don't remember. Did you get much of, in the movie, did they call them living computers?
No, it didn't. The movie didn't do much to
They
do
called
that.
them that in the show. They called them living computers at one point. That they were the living computers of the Gundams. So, there's a lot implied going on there. I think they even referenced the fact that they were, like, not biologically enhanced or even genetically enhanced, that they might have been, like, having machine parts in them, too.
Cyborgs?
Yeah. I don't know you would call them cyborgs because I don't know to the level of what they've had, that level they've been messed with. So, when you're in that realm, I don't know how much you could say you could bring somebody back from the dead. Like, what if you just, like, $5 million man them, right? So, I don't know. That's my theory at the moment because I have no other ideas. It's either that or she's just fucking crazy.
It all depends. Do they have the technology?
They got the money. I found it interesting that Durandal referenced the Atlantic Federation specifically, rather than the Earth Federation, or I guess Earth Alliance in this respect. I keep making that mistake. It is the Atlantic, I think it's the Atlantic Alliance too, but he says Atlantic Federation. Whatever. In the last season, I had pointed out that the destruction of Josh A was specifically using personnel from other parts of the Alliance in order to make one side of it stronger than the rest, you know, specifically sacrificing parts of your mega alliance to make your very specific alliance stronger in the aftermath. And now we are seeing that one side of it is being mentioned for the pressure it alone might be applying to the other Earth states.
Bit of a neo-imperialism there. That's all.
I think it was very specifically Azrael that mentions which alliances were not losing people, or I think Azrael very specifically was with the Atlantic Alliance. So anyway, that's just me bringing, again, you commented on 2 parts of Durandal's conversation with Kigali, and I had spread them out amongst 3 comments, it looks like.
Yeah. Now, something weird happened because I have a question. Who shot at Luna Maria's mobile suit from behind? When they're pursuing... Nobody? No,
damage.
She gets...
No, it was just pre-existing damage. If you might recall, her machine was already damaged before she got into it, because that is one that Ray tells her, hey, get away from it real quick, and then he uses his Gundam to scoop up debris off of the top of it so that she can get in the cockpit. Yeah. So it was already damaged. So when she's flying away, for some reason, they made the one girl in the group have to, oh, no, the engine's going out.
Yeah, it kind of looked, but it kind of looked like
there was no incoming fire.
Yeah, she just, like somebody shot it from behind, and then we see the little, because I said the abyss that shoots the drones that start.
The abyss was in front of them. Yeah, everything was in front of them because they were already gathered at the hole, and by the time she breaks down, it's Ray, Shin, and Luna Maria that were heading there, trying to catch them before they get out of the hole, and then she breaks down and has to go back, and that's when she lands on the Minerva. I mean, I could be wrong, but again, there was no incoming fire, and the fact that it was already
say that because
in the realm
the drones actually, when they split around, they actually start shooting from all directions. So I thought maybe a drone had gotten back there and hit her, but that doesn't seem likely because the drones deploy later.
Again, it was
sooner.
the element of the fact that they were already in the previous blast of the first episode when the terrorists take them and they say, attack all the warehouses, you know? So they were already pre-hit before she got into it. Kind of like when you're like playing Mech Warrior, right? And your jump jets are already damaged, but then you overheat while you're already in the game.
Yeah.
I think there was a none too subtle implication being made that the refugees Zaft took in were forced to work for the Zaft military. Durandal suggests that it was only natural, but it is also an anime, and when a character says something is obvious, it tends to mean something more insidious. Also, I suppose, not for nothing, but not all of Orb's citizens would have been coordinators, and those refugees would have been taken in while Patrick Zolla was still in charge, and we both know he was all about exterminating naturals.
And we don't, and going back to the note I said before, we have to show those naturals. I don't think people felt, I mean, it would be something you wouldn't want to say normally around the people you're, disparaging. Like they could hear you.
To be fair,
yeah.
To like a funny Bill Burr joke, we didn't see the guy. For all we know, he did one of these first.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
But yeah, no, my point is that Durandal, very specifically, is like we put everyone found work or something like that. And it's like, well, we're in the middle of Armory 1, and these were people with usable skills, let's say, like mobile suit workers and people who may have had experience. Like Morgenroth was in the area. They might have gotten the Gundam experts out here. And it's funny now that I'm looking around, and how many new Gundam models do you have?
True. But also the fact that Chin seems to be a willing participant, right?
We don't know that all of the refugees came from the same location.
Yeah.
Because remember, as I pointed out before, Zaft was like, hey, you guys need help? And they were ignoring them. Then they might have only ignored the military help, but they might have, like, they weren't real close to each other. Zaft's base was in Australia, and I think I pointed out before that I'm pretty sure Orb is just Japan. So,
yeah.
But they might have evacuated to there and then, spread out to wherever. They could have done a forced Operation Paperclip.
Yeah. I mean, in many ways, Operation Paperclip was forced.
Well,
they didn't have a lot of options.
Yeah, you have the option of, live in America and we might pay you well if you give up all your secrets, or the noose.
Yeah, or going back to a destroyed, or turning you over to the Soviets, who probably are not going to be that gentle with you.
Well, they had their own Operation Paperclip. I don't remember what it was called. Something like
they did. But probably the Soviets were like, you better cooperate or else,
Actually, I think they treated pretty well too. For some reason, we were just good to those people.
I mean, they have knowledge. Well, it's understanding
there is a I can't remember the name of it, but there's a pretty good video about what happened to the German people after World War II when it comes to the whole, not the tribunal, but, the how do we figure out how many people were willing participants in this, and then how many people literally just got away with murder. Literally got away with murder because bureaucracy is hard.
Yeah. So to my next point, I wrote 2 other notes that really don't, they solve them. Well, one of them just is dumb because it's like, literally like 5 seconds later.
By the way, I also appreciate that your notes are already in episode 2 and I've still got a ways to go in episode 1.
Yeah, but this is still episode 2. Ray gets a flash when the mass fighter, that we know is Neo, joins the fight, just like Mula Flaga would when Raw entered the battlefield. So that was something to be noted. It happens twice in the episode.
Since you're already down 1 note, because you you already nixed on one. I have like an identical note to that, and I'm just gonna read that one out too. Neo and Rey got the same lightning recognition thing that Rao and Mu got before, implying what? That they are clone brothers? That they are... There was really only one reason I can think of that Mu and Rao had that, because otherwise they weren't actually special beyond the coordinator/natural thing. It doesn't help that Neo's ship looks like a sleeker version of the Mobius Zero. That was Mu's fighter jet.
Yeah,
The Mobius Zero.
thing. Yeah. Oh.
So I don't know what it implies because nobody else has the power to recognize other people. Like, even Kira and Kigali didn't, like, flash.
Yeah. I guess, they may or may not explain it because they never truly explained it. It was assumed that because they were clones, and they not even direct clones, but son of his father, and Rao was the clone of his father. So I recognize my daddy genes. Kind of awkward. Like, well, I know where I came from, sort of, maybe, not really.
So I was thinking how funny it would be to add the I recognize my daddy genes to the mama thing.
It's funny. It's funny to me. So you score points there.
All right, my next one. One thing jumped out at me. Both Athrun and Kigali are in this mobile suit, fighting for their lives against Gundams. Both characters have used seed before, but with their lives on the line, neither did this time.
I mean, it doesn't look like it's something that they can actually control.
Oh no, that looks like they can control it in season 1.
Well,
Athrun used it multiple times against Kira specifically, but then at the end of the season. And then Kira's used it a bunch of times too, like real early on, in fact. Like, you saw it in movie 1. But
it looked like it was like more like, I need to do, and they just went into this fugue state. Maybe
the indication is that they've used it when other people were in danger. At least Kira early on used it when people were in danger. I have to assume that maybe that's a trigger. But then Athrun is fighting the Gundams, and oh no, Kigali's bumped her head. Now she's bleeding and she needs help. She's in danger. Nothing.
Yeah.
Maybe the love is gone. Maybe he doesn't care as much anymore.
Oh, I don't think that's true.
He's not like pulling it all out. He's got this seed thing he could be doing, but I don't know. She is really important. I don't get to spend weekends with her anymore, and
I mean, it could be that he afraid that if he gets even more violent inside the cockpit, hurt her even more because she's not strapped in. So,
I'm just saying, he didn't rush to the hospital immediately. It's like, oh, she's bleeding from the head. That's probably a concussion. Oh, she woke up.
So I'm going to say my last point, which you may or may not have noticed. When Chairman Durandal is on the ship, and this is literally the last moment before, second to last scene, because it cuts to the Minerva, flying to the camera, gives a knowing look at the very end. Which would look suspicious to me. Like things are happening, he's like, and I'm like, okay, what the hell was that all about? Almost like, oh, things are falling exactly as I planned, which kind of doesn't make sense because he's in the middle of the battlefield and he could have been easily squished by these, giant robots. But you never know.
He's also the supreme counselor of the entire zaft, which means he's in the Patrick position. So. Oh, great. I've attacked myself. Yeah. I mean, I don't notice. I didn't notice anything that you're talking about there, so
it's a split second because they switch to him. He kind of gives almost like a half smile, and then boom, cut right to the Minerva flying to the camera and end of episode. So yeah,
I don't know. The most I focused on Durandal was the episode 1 conversations, and then during episode 2 when they're like, "You've got to get out of here," and he's like, "I can't leave the front without knowing what's going on yet," and they're like, "Well, we got a gas leak and everyone has to evacuate. At least go to the Minerva," and he's like, fine. So he didn't look happy to have to escape to the Minerva. So you saying that he was like, haha, the plan's coming together. at the end. It didn't really put two and two together in my head.
I mean, it's something that could come back. I could be completely wrong.
I mean, he even had to ask the captain to stay on board. So, all right, I don't know how you're on the last one because I still have 4 to go.
No, because I skipped a couple of them because they were already answered. Like who is Neo? Okay, he's the guy with a mask. Duh. So yeah.
Athrun does that thing I always use in this example of what makes the best Gundam pilots, which is to be able to prove that it's not the Gundam that makes you great. In this case, getting into a random mobile suit and being able to hold your own against a superior force. He doesn't win on his own, but he effectively holds off a number of hostile Gundams until he can be saved. My normal example of this is, of course, Zex from Gundam Wing, holding off the Wing Zero in a Leo.
Yeah. And he uses that shield very well. Never hits a target, though, but still.
Well, you're not supposed to hit a target with a shield. Well, not unless... Sorry, you don't remember Season 1.
Oh, yeah. And that's when he does the sweet move where he pulls the axe, like, and then has his arm cut off. The Zaku's one, not his actual arm, so...
I guess Shin's Gundam must come from a different project or something, as they've kept information on it segmented from even the production of other Gundams. The Chaos Gundam's readout listed it as an unknown object, which indicates that it doesn't even read as a friendly to other Zaft Gundams.
I mean, it seems to be pretty special with the segmented, the fact that it's already in part of it was a Gundam designed to be part of the Minerva. It's already in segmented aspects and it has to be launched differently. It has a core fighter style component. None of the other Gundam seems to operate that way. So yeah, I would think that it was a different project altogether just by its construction, right?
Well, no, I was more indicating the fact that the information on it has been segmented from all other Gundam projects. Again, what did I say? The Chaos Gundam's readout only says alert, unknown object.
Yeah.
So it's not like do not attack, friendly,
No, you would you would separate information just in case. It's just standard operating procedure. Right?
I think one final note on it is that it's more so that it doesn't have a transponder that identifies it as Zaft to other Gundams. Sorry, every time you bob your head, I don't know if you're like, go on, or, yeah, I'm thinking about it. So...
yeah, basically what I'm saying is, I mean, it might have not, I probably would have to be installed. Otherwise, how does the Minerva recognize the Gundam if other units cannot
Similarly, they were made together.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think they were. I mean, the Minerva and the Gundam probably were made together, but not the other Gundams. So
obviously, that's what we've just been saying.
Yeah, so, yeah.
The confusing thing for me about our attacker's ship is that it uses the stealth system of the Blitz. Now, the Blitz totally blew up when Kira cut Nicole in half, so there wouldn't have been anything to salvage from that to get its stealth system. In my mind, that leaves only 3 options for how the ship has that system on it. 1, it was stolen from Zaft. Zaft reverse engineered the Gundams to be able to improve on their designs, like with the Justice and Freedom. Zaft was the first group to create mobile suits, and has been on the forefront of their R&D, so it would make sense that they could have taken that info to use later while the Blitz was still under their control. 2, it was taken from Orb. It was Orb designers that originally created the Blitz, so it's entirely possible that they could have gotten the info directly. Either that, or as previously indicated, Orb refugees needed somewhere to go, and were... and where they put the work with whatever skills they already had. Meaning that what Zaft did, these guys did. And 3, they just invented a new version themselves. Can't push the idea off the table that they just innovated on their own, however unlikely that may be.
I mean, it's like stealth technology, right? Once you figure it out, somebody has figured it out. Someone is like, oh, we can do that too, right? You know.
That doesn't tend to be the case, though, in short format shows, or not even short format shows, just things like this. Is that once you saw somebody doing it, you either say immediately, oh no, they copied my idea, or, they've got one too, or you indicate to the audience that this is a thing that you were also working on. So if you were going to suddenly innovate, you would typically do that, but they also called it the same system that the Blitz used. Not just the bad guys identifying it, the people using it. So... The Zaft forces specifically try to identify if the attackers are Earth forces, but apparently their ship doesn't match up. Though, there is a lot of information skullduggery afoot here. The previous thing about the Zaft Gundam computer not being able to identify another Zaft Gundam, for example. Also, the fact that we, the viewer, have seen the inside of the ship, and everyone is wearing Earth Alliance uniforms.
But also... they mentioned something like, oh, Neo's information was incomplete because not only did the computers not identify it, but they'll say, oh, Neo didn't tell us about this new Gundam. So we don't know how much Neo, who seems to be at the center's operation, actually knows. He knew about the other Gundams, right? And that's what the operation was meant to retrieve them. But he clearly didn't know about the Impulse
I don't find
Gundam.
that to be super important. From the perspective of even in Season 1, we don't really focus on how did Zaft know that the 5 Gundams were at Heliopolis. It's just not like an important thing. We're not like, many Bothans died to get us this information.
Yeah. But I think it might be more important here in the sense of who they're really working for. It looks like they're working for the Federation, but...
I have them in the unknown category on the board, despite the fact of clearly seeing an Earth Forces uniform. Well, I don't have to ask you if you have any more thoughts, because you've told me them all. So, yep. I guess there's nothing left but to go ahead and hop on into it.
But before we get started,
make sure that you hit the like button,
hit that subscribe button,
comment down below to feed that algorithm.
On top of all that, if you want to watch more shows like this,
unfiltered,
uncensored,
and uncut,
as well as some early access stuff,
you can check it out over on the Patreon.
It's just $5 a month, but hey, no pressure.
There's zero pressure in order to do that. It's just a little bit of extra support, and it would be greatly appreciated.
1年半にわたった地球プラント間の戦いはヤキンドゥエ中
The same opening thing as before.
やがて双方の合意のもとかつての悲劇の地ユニウス7において締結された条約は今後の相互理解努力と平和とを誓い世界は再び安定を取り戻そうと歩み始めていた
Still pretty sure that's Eileen Carver or Canaver, I can't remember.
戦闘に出るのかこの船はアスラン
Oops.
アスランどこからさあその期待もいただこうか
Yeah, because when I think things that can capture other things, I think Mobius Zero, or whatever the fuck that one's called, Mobius 1. And I've already done a breakdown of the opening, so I already know every shot. It looks like she went back to being an idol.
Yeah.
We already know your thoughts on the subject. You think she's got double D's.
Not unheard of.
No, it's not unheard of. In fact, I heard you say it. See, it looks like Savior Gundam to me.
I really like this song. Yeah, I think that's Kira and...
Kigale.
Not Kira, No,
I'm pretty sure it's
Keenan
Kira and
and
Kigali because
Stella.
they're that making it. Well, Stella. No, I'm pretty sure that's Kigali. Stella has some wilder
Short
hair, I
blonde
want to
hair.
say. Sorry, did he approaching 3 times? What was that about?
としていたらただの的だ。この敵は普通とは違う。なんだこれは。
Can you read minds?
What if there's like a bunch of rows?
FCS コンタクト。
Could be.
見れば全ステーション異常なし。
索敵急いで。インパルス。
That Ray is just another row.
53マーク22ブラボーに不明感1。
Younger one, I suppose.
Well, they age fast, remember?
それが母艦か。
助言をデータベースに登録。以降、対象をボギー1とする。
同157マーク80アルファにインパルスとザク交戦中の模様。
呼び出せる。
ダメです。電波障害激しく通信不能。
敵の数は
一機です。
That hair is a
これは
travesty.
モビルアーマーです。
It's a choice.
It's like you were putting like the shit in your hair to make it stick, and then the wind blew really hard.
ボギー1を撃つ。ブリッジ
Oh no, they scratched the impulse.
インディゴデルタ。加速 20%。信号弾およびアンチビーム爆雷。発射用意。アーサー、何してるの？
はい。ランチャー8。1番から
Oh, he's gonna get killed.
It's funny in the English dub, he is British.
Well, Arthur.
彼らを助けるのは先じゃないのか。艦長。
そうですよ。だから母艦を撃つんです。敵を引き離すのが一番早いですから。この場合は。
戦艦と母式熱源接近。類別不明。レッド53マーク80デルタ。
例の新型艦か。面舵15、加速 30%。イーグルしてるん起動。行くだそう。船。
I mean, did you not know anything?
配りすぎは元も子もなくすか。ミネルは機関信号。なんで？命令だ。ライトハルト。テー。退避。
Yeah, they're not exactly the same as the Archangel, either of them. That's funny that my most prescient thought was that was a stupid arrangement of sofas.
Yeah.
There was one by the door, and then just one right next to that one, and then one in the middle of the room.
Yeah.
撤収するぞ。リー。ボギー1離脱します。イエロー71アルファ。
インパルス、ザクは
人収容中です。
急がせて。このまま一気にボギー1を叩きます。進路イエローアルファ。
Also odd that they called them Zaku's.
大佐、すまん、遊びすぎたか。敵艦なおも接近。ブルーゼロ、距離110。
かなり足の速い船のようです。厄介ですぞ。
ミサイル接近。
折りかじ、放せ。
両舷の推進剤予備弾庫、分離後爆破。アームごとでいい。鼻っ面に食らわせてやれ。同時に上げかじ。
Sorry, you said arms?
機関最大。
Yeah.
No, that was where the propellant tanks are. He said no need to detach the arms.
Yeah. Just
Now
like
we
gonna
had like
the whole thing.
cross vibes.
Yeah.
大丈夫か。 隊の一部を分離。
撃ち方待て。面かじ銃。機関最大。
Bet a lot all that did. Sorry, tethered phone. Would have thought we would have been past that.
マート、敵艦の位置は。
待ってください。まだ。
シエス起動。アンチビーム爆雷発射。次は撃ってくるわよ。
見つけました。レッド88、マーク6チャーリー。距離500。逃げたのか。機長。
やってくれるわ。こんな手で逃げようなんて。
だいぶ手強い部隊のようだな。
ならばなおのこと、このまま逃がすわけにはいきません。そんな連中にあの機体が渡れば。
ああ。
今からでは下船いただくこともできませんが、私は本艦はこのままあれを追うべきと思います。
Well, I mean, unless you put him on a shuttle.
私のことは気にしないでくれたまえ。
That's why I pointed out in the opening, he's on the ship.
放置したらどれほどの対価になって戻ってくるか。それを考えるのが怖い。あれの奪還、もしくは破壊は現時点での最優先責務だよ。
ありがとうございます。トレースは
まだ追えます。
And again, pointedly, the cloning tanks are in the opening.
進路イエローアルファ、機関最大。
進路イエローアルファ、機関最大。全艦に通達する。本艦はこれよりさらなるコギー1の追撃戦を開始する。突然の状況から思いもかけぬ初陣と。
What the point of the giant wings are on the Minerva.
なんだと。各位、日頃の訓練の成果を存分に発揮できるよう努めよう。
ブリッジ遮蔽解除。状況発生までコンディションをイエローに移行。
ブリッジ遮蔽解除。
If you have to lower the bridge into a safe place, why don't you just build the bridge down there? Also,
I mean,
how boring it
we'll
must be
have
for
to-
those guys that are down there on the bridge that doesn't move, because there's like 3 guys that didn't come up with this bridge.
yeah.
艦長、
どうしたの？
戦闘中のこともありご報告が遅れました。本艦発進時に格納庫にてザクに登場した2名の民間人を発見。
え？
これを拘束したところ、2名はオーブ連合市長国代表カガリユラ・アスハとその随
You know you didn't have to look at the name on the paper. You said her name twice, just on
Yeah.
recognition alone.
彼女がなぜこの船に。
僭越ながら独断で傷の手当てをし、今士官室でお休みいただいておりますが。
All the Haru are traitors as well. Catherine made them, remember? And now they're celebrating Kira and Lacus' relationship.
Point B までの時間は
2時間ほどです。まだ追撃があるとお考えですか。
わからんね。わからんからそう考えて予定通りの進路を取る。予測は常に悪い方へしておくもんだろう。特に戦場で。
Yes. That's how you end up with stomach ulcers.
おおむね問題はないようだ。みんな気持ちよさげに眠っているよ。ただ、アウルがステラにブロックワードを使って。
Ah, it's a block word. Okay.
それがちょっと厄介ということだが。
It wasn't simply a memory, it was a implanted command.
ラボは本気で使えると思ってるんでしょうかね。
それでも前のよりはだいぶマシだろ。こっちの言うことや仕事をちゃんと理解してやれるだけ。
Is the previous group the people I thought, or people we don't know?
Probably people we don't know.
モビルスーツもパイロットも世界もな。
ええ、分かっています。
やがて全てが本当に始まる日が来る。我らの名のもとにね。
何やってるそこ。
Which was
シールドストリッピングなんざプログラムで何度もやったろうが。その通りやればいいんだぞ。
はい。
しかしまだ信じられない。実戦なんてマジ嘘みてえ。ああ、なんでいきなりこんなことになるんだよ。でもまさかこれでこのまままた戦争になっちゃったりはしないよね。
と思うけどね。
本当にお詫びの言葉はない。姫までこのよう
Yeah, I mean, that's why I got a green line between Shin and Atherin.
ですがどうかご理解いただきたい。
あの舞台についてはまだ全く何も分かっていないの。
Also, I told you to stop calling me princess.
そうですね。
Yeah.
船などにもはっきりと何かを示すようなものは何も。しかしだからこそ我々は一刻も早くこの事態を収拾しなくてはならないのです。取り返しのつかないことになる前に。
ああ、分かってる。それは当然だ、議長。今は何であれ、世界を刺激するようなことはあってはならないんだ。絶対に。
ありがとうございます。姫ならばそうおっしゃってくださると信じておりました。よろしければまだ時間のあるうちに。
As far as we know, what's her name in the guards didn't share the Atherin slip.
いわば命をお預けいただくことになるのです。それが
I think that's why he was wearing glasses, so they wouldn't recognize him. But I think the chairman certainly does recognize him. I mean, if Atherin is that famous, yet I'm sure that the head of, the man that took his father's place would know who he is.
Well, name recognition doesn't mean face recognition. Also, it's been like a year. You don't know how many Supreme counselors there have been since then.
こんなところで対戦の英雄に会うとはね。でも何？あのザクがどうかしたの？
あ、いや、ミネルヴァ配備の機体じゃないから誰が乗ってたのかなって。
操縦してたのは護衛の人みたいよ。アレックスって言ってたけど。でも
Alex Dino.
代表がそう呼んだのよ、とっさに。その人のことをアスランって。アスランザラ、今はオーブにいるらしいって噂でしょ。
アスランザラ。
Okay, well, I guess I can move him out of the unknown area then. I wasn't certain of which group he was aligned with.
ここからモビルスーツデッキへ上がります。
艦のほぼ中心に位置するとお考えください。搭載可能数は無論申し上げられませんし、現在その数量が載っているわけでもありません。ZGMF-1000。ザクはもう
Yeah, effectively we're on a troop transport.
現在のザフト軍主力の機体です。
Oh, a carrier to be fair.
そしてこのミネルヴァ最大
Well,
の
I mean, consider like the mobile suits
発信シス
troops.
テムを使うインパルス。交渉でご覧
But
に
now
な
they're
った
humanoid.
I was thinking more like fighters if you
技
think
術者
about
に
it.
言わせると、これは全く新しい効率のいいモビルスーツシステムなんだそうですよ。
Is it efficient though?
私にはあまり専門的なことはわかりませんがね。
I don't know why you wouldn't ask.
しかし、
We're not engineers and we're not in the universe. We wouldn't know.
議長は嬉しそうだな。
嬉しいというわけではありませんがね。あの混乱の中からみんなで懸命に頑張り、ようやくここまでの力を持つことができたということはやはり
力か。争いがなくならぬから力が必要だとおっしゃったな。
And he was proven right.
ねえ。
だが、ではこの度のことはどうお考えになる？
Well, you see, when a man and a woman hate each other very much,
あの被害のことは
代表。
だから力など持つべきではないのだと。
そもそもなぜ必要なのだ。そんなものが今さら。我々は誓ったはずだ。もう悲劇は繰り返さない。
you understand we're two world leaders talking to each other, right? You're not talking to like your friend on the phone. You might want to lower your tone a bit, princess. Oh, them's revenge eyes. think I called it right. This is a revenge guy.
オレンジ55マーク90アルファイエロー50マーク82チャーリー
Oh, and if Atheron's a known friend of Kira's,
敵艦捕捉距離8000コンディションネット発令パイロットは搭乗機にて待機せよ
最終チェック急げ始まるぞ
あ、やべし申し訳ありません議長この処分は後ほど必ず
本当に申し訳ない姫彼はオーブからの移住者なので
we have to call everybody an immigrant.
思いもしなかったのですが
I mean, he is.
Well, I assume after like a year or something, he might be like
来ましたか
living here.
ま、ザフトもそう寝ぼけてはいないという
They become naturalized.
ここで一気に叩くぞ総員戦闘配備パイロットをブリーフィングルームへ
向こうもよもやデブリの中に入ろうとはしないでしょうけど危険な中域での戦闘になるわ総監頼むわよ
は
シンとルナマリアで先制します終わってるわね
目標まで6500
議長
いいかな艦長私はオーブの方々にもブリッジに入っていただきたいと思うのだが
いえそれは
君も知っての通り代表は先の大戦で艦の指揮も取り数多くの戦闘
We are clogging up the bridge with a lot of extra people.
そうした視点からこの船の戦いを見ていただこうと思ってね
わかりました議長がそうお望みなのでしたら
ありがとうタリア目標まで6000
ブリッジ遮蔽対艦対モビルスーツ戦闘用意
あの新型艦だって
I'm also worried that we're just doing too much.
今度こそバラバラかいけど
The ship?
Too much.
Well,
Oh.
one, the impulse is like all these pieces have to come together. The ship has
Yeah.
like this giant moving part. Like, what happens if you're in the middle of a fight and the bridge comes down, just jams in the middle?
Well, I think it's designed to avoid people shooting the bridge directly and killing everybody.
That's
as
what I
they
said
always do.
before. Build it down there then.
タイミングを誤るなよ
Now you've got a moving part that can fail. Oh, hey, Legend of the Galactic Heroes. We just saw this. I do like the maneuver, though.
発進スタンバイ全システムオンライン発進シークエンスを開始します
Frankly, I think I last saw it in Iron-Blooded Orphans.
I mean, what's the point of the maneuver? Not being able to shut down their engines and be in the position to ambush them? Is that
No,
what
it's
they're
a
trying to
quick,
do?
it's a quick whip around.
プラットフォームのセット
You can whip around faster than you could on your engine power alone.
機密シャッターを閉鎖しますコアスプレンダー全システムオンライン発進シークエンスを開始しますハッチ開放射出システムのエンゲージを確認
目標進路そのまま距離4700
ザクインパルス
I guess we're all still reusing the
さすが
system Kira programmed.
お家芸だな
彼はオーブからの移住者なので
The Athas, are they married?
I don't know. I don't remember if we called him Zala or they called him Zala. Also, I guess,
Because
do you think
his
he would
father
have
was not
taken...
known for somebody who was peaceful.
Well, no, his father's name was Zala. I'm saying, are we taking
Oh.
the wife's name?
続いてインパルスどうぞ
Her
As in-
name is Kigaliatha,
コアスプレンダー
not his.
Ah. Oh, the Athas as in she and her father.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
Zumi, Kigali.
Mhm.
That's why I say, you said that they're married. It's like, are we assuming he's taking her last name to get away from the Zala
Yeah.
name? Yeah, it's not automated. Like I said, it's a jet thing. But it's like a Zoid. But then again, the strike was the same way. It had a thing that flew out, or it was an attachment, rather.
それが偽りだったとしたら
Yeah, he knew who his name was. What if the name is not real? Yeah.
それはその存在そのものも偽りということになるのかな。アレックス、いや、アスランザラ君。
I mean, they had a year to get married. It's his fault if they didn't. She literally handed him a,
A what?
2 words. The second word's charm. Oh, God, the word's not coming to me.
The procreation charm?
Yeah. Basically, it's not the word I was looking for either. Fertility
Yeah.
charm. That's the word I was looking
Fertility
for.
charm, yeah.
I know I didn't do it with you, but
Yeah.
she names it, and then I looked
Uh-huh.
up the name, and it does come from like a real life mythology, where it is like a fertility goddess. But ironically, the fertility goddess leaves mankind behind, so it was kind of ironic that she gave it to a coordinator when the coordinators are actively trying to leave mankind behind.
Yeah.
There's multiple levels to it. No, that's multiple seasons away. That'll be spoilers. I don't like Kigali's point of view. I mean, it has merit, but I don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
It's does Batman inspire villains or does Batman solve villains?
I mean, one could argue that because people have power, they seek to use it, which leads other people to gain power to protect themselves from the people who already have power and abuse it. So,
well, I mean, I was going more with the people who have power create people to challenge it.
Yeah.
But I mean, the obvious thing is if they were powerless, then they'd just walk over you anyway. You gotta prove that you can defend yourself. We both watched Gundam Wing, right? True fact. We both know the Zaft Kingdom had a military, even though it was a God damn it vocabulary.
Peaceable kingdom?
No, it's not
Neutral kingdom?
No, not neutral either. When you're not gonna fight or you stand for not fighting.
Peaceable.
No. Every country's peaceable until they go to war. You're against war altogether.
Yeah.
God, I wish sometimes you would help me. It seems like your vocabulary is just as bad as mine is, apparently.
I mean, I wish I knew what the word was, but I don't,
I feel like we've had arguments about the definition of the word before, too. About it doesn't... No, actually, I just had arguments with other people about it. That it doesn't mean that you won't fight. You're just against fighting.
I guess neutrality would be it.
No. Oh, God, I'm going to have
Pacifist?
There we go. Pacifist. It was a pacifist kingdom. The Zaft Kingdom was a pacifist kingdom with a military. Because you have to also recognize that you cannot appear weak, otherwise people will take advantage. And also, you have to be able to defend yourself, otherwise... what are you doing? You might as well just have like a commune out in the backwoods.
And then Helter Skelter starts playing.
It's funny, I was thinking of Waco. You went with, if I was to start killing people, there'd be none of you left. I can't remember his name, I just remember the quote.
Charles Manson.
Yeah.
I went with Charles Manson, yeah.
Well, I mean, that was literally in the courtroom. He said that in the fucking courtroom.
Yeah.
If I start killing people, there'd be none of you left. They're like, Jesus Christ, did you want to get out of jail? I mean...
Yeah, no, he wasn't somebody you consider sane.
Well, no, he said that also with a swastika carved into his forehead.
Yeah.
To be fair, I don't know if it was forwards or backwards, so it could have been the good luck charm. But no one's first thought when you see the gold ring with a swastika on it is, that guy wants good luck. Is that guy a fucking Nazi?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, even a pacifist kingdom in the Gundam franchise, obviously not in the same universe, recognizes the fact that even if you're pacifist, you have to be prepared to defend yourself.
True.
So I don't know what Kigali's point really is, because if it's you're making too much power, in which case, what's that about? And it's like he's already pointed out, yeah, but you're rebuilding military bases too.
I mean, I think it's more of a violence begets violence kind of argument, that people who seek power, even if they seek it for good intentions, almost always at some point end up, because you have power. Power is the ability to do. The temptation to just do something, like impose your will on others, becomes stronger and stronger the more power you have.
That's what the treaty was for, because that's what specifically the treaty was. Or actually, Durandal himself says it when he says that we have the same beliefs that Orb does, which is to say, we won't impose our will on others, and we don't want others to impose their will on us. So he's essentially saying that we're not going to do that. That's not what this is about. And I was automatically going to disagree with you on the conflict v conflict thing, in that that's not what this was about either. But I mean, what I just said about the orb thing already goes to that. I think this is more of an arms race. I mean, we haven't seen what Earth Alliance is up to, so we don't know what their buildup is like. We can only assume that he's at least building up to what the Earth Alliance is, if not more.
If Neo is not working with the Earth Alliance.
Well, it doesn't matter in that respect. I'm not talking about Neo. I'm talking about the, the other military power in the universe that we've been fighting for 18 months. That,
because
when America builds up its nuclear arsenal, we're focusing on USSR or Russia, depending on what time it is, because the other powers in the world don't have the equivalent. I guess maybe China does these days, but I'm using the classic example, Cold War era politics, which is it doesn't matter what the terrorists are building up to. They're not on the radar when it comes to worldwide armament.
Yeah, but okay, let me put it this way. If you're talking about an arms race and Neo works for the Earth Federation or the Atlantic Alliance, North Atlantic Alliance, then the fact that they've developed a new warship with cloaking abilities and experimenting with people to make them more powerful, like the whole thing we talked about before, that they were maybe a new version of coordinators, right?
I guess this is just me being pedantic in the realm of, you keep pointing out one guy, and I'm saying it doesn't matter. It's the whole Earth Alliance. I don't care what I know what you're saying. That's why I'm saying maybe it's just me being pedantic. But I'm talking about Zaft, Earth Alliance, not Durandal, Neo. Like, I don't care about the individuals. I'm just talking about the organizations as a whole.
Yes, because I was trying to finish my thought here. That those might already be steps that the alliance, the alliance is taking to get a one-up on SAF, right? But they're doing it covertly, so that it looks like, oh no, we're sticking to the treaty. I don't know what you're talking about. Which is what you do in a situation when you have an arms race.
I mean, you say that's what you do. It's not what Zaft did in the first episode.
No, but say we're talking about, okay, because we have the end of the war.
No, I'm talking about the Zaft that literally did this exact thing in the first episode of the first season, and they just did it as themselves.
Because they got nuked, right?
Well, I mean, they got nuked some time before the first episode.
And they reacted to that nuking. It's like, oh, we need more powerful weapons to protect ourselves. Orb has them.
I think, no, you're attaching the nuking of Janus 7 to the attack on Heliopolis way too easily. Again, Heliopolis happened 11 months after. They've been at war for 11 months before Heliopolis. This was the Earth Alliance is getting... I think I've called them weapons of mass destruction before. Essentially,
Yeah.
they're getting weapons of mass destruction from a third party, and we have to intercede on that behalf, or before that transfer happens. And they did it as themselves. Like, it was a zaft ship with zaft uniformed people attacking an orb station.
Okay, but knowing what happens at the end of Destiny, no, a seed, where both sides essentially have the ability and willingness to destroy each other, now we're more in a Cold War situation where you want to cover your tracks.
I don't think we are. I mean, in a equivalent situation. Well, for one thing, we know that well, so here's the confusion part for me. Jashindu is the name of the asteroid in front of the super weapon, but apparently both things got destroyed, the super weapon and Jashindu. But the super weapon itself also destroyed the Earth Alliance base on the moon, which is where we already covered the entire nuclear arsenal was at. So, conceivably, both sides lost their ability to completely devastate the other. In one go, as it were. Because obviously the nuclear arsenal was the Earth Alliance's one-go answer. And the super laser... Well, it wasn't a laser, I don't know what the fuck that thing was. The Cyclops system in space... I don't mean X-Men, the Josh A weapon was called Cyclops.
Yeah.
Whatever that was, it's gone too. So, I mean, it's literally... I think in the end credits of every episode, the thing in the background is that Cyclops system laser thing.
Yeah, but I think they don't want to start that again, right? They don't want to go to that position again where we're back to the brink. They came from the brink. They don't want to be back in the brink, but they still want to act against Zaft or whoever. So they do it covertly by employing a group that has some plausible deniability.
I mean, we're just in a mirror match again. Or not a mirror match, we're in a mirror of the first season in that Earth Alliance doesn't have a Gundam anymore. They all got blown up at the end of the first season. Zaft has a bunch of Gundams.
They can build more. They
don't. No, they can't. Earth Alliance
Why
never
not?
built any Gundams. They never have the specs to build any Gundams.
They built a lot of, I mean, that they were using against Orb. Those were
well...
Yeah. Remember that.
Okay, clarification here. When I go, that's me thinking. That's not me disagreeing with you.
Okay.
Well, you immediately went no, and I recognize I make that same thing. It's like, I'm thinking, yeah. No, because I don't know. Here's the problem. And I think we got this from a comment at the start of the episode, is that Astray was going to cover this shit, and due to scheduling conflicts, it didn't. That we don't know where those 3 Gundams come from. In one episode, Sutherland gets a briefing, and on the briefing on the screens, we see the specs of those 3 Gundams, and then they just appear later. So the same way that we don't also directly, this is what the comment covered. All of the Earth Alliance mobile suits, the M1, apparently they're all M1 Astrays. We don't know where those come from either. They just fucking show up.
I mean, again, they have their own scientists, I suppose, they might developing them, right?
Well, let's see. It's been 10 months into the war, or 11 months actually, and they never did. So, and then suddenly they've got an entire military force that appears out of nowhere. There's no Iron Cavalry on the moon situation, right? Where we just deployed our first ones and let's see how this works.
Oh, because remember that it was Kira who solved their problem for them. But yeah,
Orb has its own military. Kira solved the problem for Orb's mobile suit problem. That's the 3 girls that you had no connection to.
Yeah,
they keep floundering around trying to test the mobile suits, and they have a hard time. And then Kira reprograms everything, and that's also then why Mu is able to pilot the strike. Because he also tries it out with the Orb mobile suits against those girls.
And it could be that they had a spy in Orb.
I already covered all of this with how did they get the Blitz, right? It's essentially the same argument. How did they get the Blitz? They stole it from Zaft. They stole it from Orb. They invented it themselves.
Okay.
Right, I just don't think they invented it themselves. My bet is probably they had a connection to Morgan Rhett, because Morgan Rhett was the one that was going to be transferring the Gundams to them via Orb. So there's also an indication, and again, I don't think it's covered in the movies, that there was an element of Orb that was strong-arming its mobile suit development team to aid the Earth Alliance, which is then where that division of Morganrit comes into play, and then we just don't see any of that happen. Because you might recall Kigali in the first episode, not the first episode, but the first movie for you.
Yeah.
Father, you betrayed us all.
Betrayed us.
Yeah. And I think it's indicated at some point when they first go to Orb that there's some sort of like nobility or higher ups within Orb that are orchestrating this shit. But again, my point being is that those 3 Gundams and then all the Earth Alliance mobile suits just fucking appear. There's beyond that one meeting with Sutherland, which only shows the 3 Gundams, the Earth Alliance mobile suits just do fucking appear when they invade Orb. It's just like out of nowhere. I don't remember why we got here. What the leading in conversation was.
Talking about Kigali and Durandal's discussion on power.
Yeah. Well, like Durandal said, conflict will always exist. So that boils down to the season 1 question that never gets resolved, which is how do you stop the cycle of violence? And my answer is always it's human nature.
I think it's
if it's not human nature, then you're just saying everyone on Earth is bad. Because everyone, not everyone, but the vast majority of people on Earth participate in a system of violence, if not political, then physical. If not physical, emotional. Violence is the human nature.
I disagree, but that's a Rousseau versus what's his name?
People are born evil, people are born good.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's different because that's like original sin versus inherited evil from like your parents' sins. I don't remember exactly what the other side is, which is completely different from violence.
I mean, you would use violence. I would argue the use of violence is at some level evil because you're hurting and.
I mean, it's closer to nature versus nurture because, inherited sin versus being born innocent. That is a weird juxtaposition versus nature for nurture because it would be easier to argue, are you born combative or do you need to be combative to survive? Because sin doesn't fit into this narrative very well. Because that's like saying being violent is a sin. No, being violent is necessary for survival, or else we as a species wouldn't exist. I mean, there's literally like the human ability to spot patterns in nothing is born from what? Survival instinct. You needed to spot predators in the bush, right? Which is combative in its nature, right? You got to understand the violence that's about to occur in order to escape it or, counter it.
But also I would say that humanity is also highly cooperative as well.
Yeah, especially when you come into groups, which then do what? Oh, that's right, combat other groups. Because once you form a group of like-minded people, instantly you are going to oppose unlike-minded people, especially the ones that oppose your point of views. And there always will be, because if humans aren't combative, they're opinionated. And as Yoda once said, opinions lead to violence.
Did he say that?
Yes, he said that.
Yes, when?
I don't know, 20 minutes ago, just before I woke up.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, you know what I'm saying, though. Even though I phrased it within a joke, it's still poignant and it fits. Name one person that has strong opinions that isn't about to fight about them.
Not necessarily. Well, it depends on what the opinion is. But just having an opinion is not enough for me to rise to violence.
Then one would argue that it's not a strong enough opinion. But at the same point, I don't know. if you have a opinion that you care enough about, you will defend it, will you not?
There's many ways to defend an opinion.
Yeah, like with an argument, which is itself a sort of violence.
I think you're stretching the term violence a little bit too far.
No, not really.
It's not merely disagreement.
Well, I mean, it depends on how far you're willing to push a disagreement. A disagreement and argument is typically the basis before a fight happens. I'm not saying all disagreements or arguments lead to violence, but it is typically the starting point.
Yeah, but I would say most of them don't.
You'd have to be a psychopath to not start with an argument or a disagreement.
But
somebody who goes from nothing to violence is just chaos.
But most disagreements do not end up in violence. Otherwise, society wouldn't exist.
I don't have a statistic on that, but I do have a statistic. I could have one on the tip of my fingers about how many people are in prison. Because, you can have society with a large number of disagreements. There is a massive prison population. And hell, that is just a disagreement of, I don't think I belong in prison. I think you do. And a lot of those people, I'm not saying a lot, a portion of those people don't belong there.
But also
that is also inherent violence in the system.
Well, yeah. Also what you choose to criminalize.
Yeah.
And then one time. So
which
that
is
changes.
That's also violence against typically minorities.
Anyway. Anything else?
I mean, no, because I've forgotten most of what I had initially as conversation points because I went too deep on one thing and then spent too much time trying to remember words.
It happens.
Well, that is what comes with the information age. When I was more of a book reader, obviously I knew more. But when all of information is at your fingertips, you're not incentivized to remember as everything is available, and then it's just how fast can you get that information to you. Anyway, that is it for us today. Once again, I have been Theta. This has been Lessons. We've been Stoneface Reactions, and we will catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching another Stoneface Reactions. If you have an idea of another video we could go ahead and watch, go ahead and put it in the comments down below and we'll add it to the wheel. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe and let us know what you thought about this video, what parts you liked. And until then, we'll see you next time. Is this too goofy?